Wobulawayo ukhona majaha amahle ukhona intombi ezinhle ukhona majaha amahle ukhona intombi ezinhle wobulawayo 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 ukhona majaha amahle ukhona intombi ezinhle ukhona majaha amahle ukhona intombi ezinhle.
Brian Polkinghorne, 76 years old, Australian. Since the 70s, he has been mainly living and working here in Tanzania. We are in the far west of the country. The air up here at 1,800 meters above sea level is mild and pleasant. Brian goes shopping to Ngara, a small town with about 4,000 inhabitants.
Valley to go up. Habari za leo?
Salama bwana.
Safi. Sawa, asante. Are you going to drive home with a whole package of cement?
Yeah.
And you are not scared to fall down from... That gives the bike stability. Huh? I'm worried about the camera and you, but if you've got that backstop, it must help you. Right, let's go.
I have been friends with Brian and his family since childhood. I went to kindergarten in Tanzania. Brian's wife, Jill, was my nursery teacher. Later, I went to school with their youngest son. Brian has been an aid and development worker for 26 years in Tanzania. He has not become frustrated, depressed, or cynical. How on earth does he do that? Along with 4 workers from the village, Brian, as a trained agronomist and pastor, is constructing a tank for rainwater collection. That's the reason for the cement.
Nukta moja, nukta mbili, nukta tatu, pointi tano. Sawa? Basi, wewe Joe hapa, nataka nyinyi mfanye mazoezi. Ifuate kidogo namna hii. Sawa?
The ferro cement water tank will have a capacity of 10,000 litres. An equally large plastic tank would be 5 times more expensive.
Now the task is to train 2 people here, starting from today, and work with them closely so they understand everything. We also have the description written out in Swahili for them. Wanajua.
Ambayo ndio pi. Pi D.
Yes, good. Pi D. Kupata urefu ni pi D. Kwa hiyo D ni kiasi gani hapa?
D ni...
Ha?
Yaani nusu kipenyo ni...
Nusu kipenyo sio D. D ni ile jumla.
Jumla, ambayo ni mita 2.7.
Ya, sawa. Namna hiyo na kuweka na kushindilia tena. in about 2 months' time, I want to take those 2 people with me to another area where I will gather 6 people from different districts and will teach them. So we're looking for the ripple effect. It's called TOT, Training of Trainers. And they will go out and do the training. And then these people who are trained can become self-employed to make tanks for other people. Anza upya, futa, bahati mzuri, mzee alikuwepo. Unahitaji, unaogopa kuwa kama fundi ya tanki ya maji au unafurahi kidogo au una wasiwasi?
Hapana, ninafurahi.
Kwa nini unafurahi?
Maana huu ni ujuzi wa kuelimisha hata wetu wengine kupata maji kwa njia rahisi. Na kusaidia jamii pia kwa ujumla.
Na unahitaji, mnaweza kufanya kazi hii baadaye?
Tunaweza.
Inategemea kidogo.
Ndio, tunaweza.
Sawa.
Na ikemereka au yuko yobura hipata.
Everything is done by hand here. Even cleaning the sand. There is no sieve. And amidst all this, there is Brian. He considers his active participation as necessary for the so-called grassroots development aid. This is help that benefits ordinary people, as well as development projects at a grassroots level, which are supported and executed by locals.
Unaona muhimu kwamba isi lala namna hii, wala namna hii. Iwe sawa kabisa. Yeah, that's all right. Yes, good. Development work at the grassroots to help the people lift themselves from their desperate poverty and change that. That really has to be grassroots up.
The construction of the ferro cement water tank is a typical development aid project at a grassroots level. It is built by locals with tools and materials that are widely available and affordable. It needs no prior knowledge to learn how to construct, and its technology is easy to pass on to others.
Wapi, waipeleka wapi? Blangoni?
Brian has his sights on the most urgent needs of the local population, drinking water and food production in particular.
Hano hejuru hano. Augatika usindaka lekandaji.
We have to look at ways and means of getting away from these large schemes and empowering the small people in a cluster of 4 or 5 or 6 households do things for themselves. So we will move on from ferro cement tank, which is individual, to wells and pumps later on.
A roof will be mounted above the finished tank.
How do the people here react when you help them, mixing up the concrete or helping them, not only showing them, but helping them also in hand work? What is their reaction?
Yeah, I don't relate well to the bosses. God has sort of given me the experience and the skills to relate well with the people at the bottom of the pile, and that's great. It doesn't mean to say that it's better than this or that or something, but that's the gifts and skills and experience I've been given, and I get on really well with those guys. We deeply respect each other. So I know, you see, that the farmers always get the rough end of the stick, and I want to support them. They're poor, they don't know really what they're doing, and they can be easily hoodwinked by someone with a better education who is a bit sly and devious, and they're cheated all the time. Now, it's a pure gospel principle to stand up for the orphans and widows, and that's the equivalent in today's society.
Brian and his wife, Jill, can see across to Rwanda and Burundi from their terrace.
Video that's out on the streets.
Oh, about Muhammad.
About Muhammad. And the number of people being killed and the violence is going up all the time. And at the same time, The French are in trouble.
They have been married for 49 years. Jill has accompanied her husband on all missions to Tanzania. Together, they have 3 adult children who live in Australia and in Central America.
No, on politics in East Africa.
Jill works very close to her home. She teaches Sarah and Lucy.
Wild animals that escape from the zoo.
There's no adequate primary school within 600 kilometres. They send their homework to Australia for correction.
That's great.
It was Zebra's turn. He was very good at all of them except
The 2 children's missionary parents work at the local hospital.
Well, I'm going to win in It Said Lion.
Beautiful story. And we're going to have to send this back to Australia as a work return. Wow.
Hopefully they'll send it. I got the year
I asked Jill for advice. What can young development workers do to prevent from becoming exhausted and resigning their development job after a short time?
I think it's really important for people who come to make a commitment. If they're not prepared to make a long-term commitment, then I think they're not going to either learn what they need to learn to function effectively or to get something out of the experience for themselves. So having said that, I think it's important that people come to grips with the language and the culture as quickly as they can. And they need to have an understanding that things don't operate, the reason they're here is that things don't operate like they do at home. Many people say, oh, you know, why doesn't it work and why don't they do this and why don't they do that? And the reason we're here is to help the people here to have a better understanding of how they can do things to improve their lives. So if everything was fine, we wouldn't need to be here, we could be at home.
Brian is on his way to realise his second project, a so-called rope and washer pump. At the carpenter's workshop, he instructs 2 craftsmen in building such a machine. They will later pass on their knowledge in pump building in rural areas. Yesterday, the 2 carpenters were given training and homework by Brian.
Unao uwezo kufanya, kwa nini hukurudia? Hizi zote mbili. Nifanyaje? Hakuna mbao nyingine? Masaa imekwisha kwenda. Nataka kulipa kwa kazi ovyo ovyo namna hii? Hamna.
And what was the problem?
Well, you saw yesterday, they got 2 beautiful half circles. I went away and left them, and they're just terrible.
So we have to remake them?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, bwana, come on, mfanyaji.
Sehemu moja haina square lakini.
Come on, that's not acceptable. Mara 10 jana nilisema simamisha wima, na bado unakata kwa pembe. See, the frustrations continue.
Yes. I can feel it nearly by myself. Oh. I couldn't do that. I would just throw things away.
Well, I used to, I think. I think I did, yeah.
Yeah, but it is no use, isn't it?
No, it doesn't get anywhere. Persistence and patience and patience and persistence over and over and over and over again.
Because they are not doing it by purpose, do they?
They don't do it
accurately. Accurate is a very difficult word to say in Swahili. Accurate. Barabara doesn't really.
And why can't
Precise. There's no such word like precise.
There is no such word.
I wouldn't know how to say it. I've only been here 26 years, I don't know how to say precise.
And why don't they have to be accurate?
Well, see the lean-to there. It doesn't matter if it's not accurate. See the other one. It fits together, it holds up. That's the tradition. This is new. This is new. It's built precisely and accurately. But custom traditions, that's the way it goes. And tradition says when it falls down, you make another one. In the 1970s, there was no word for maintenance. You didn't maintain things. You built them, they fell down, you built another one.
And here you have to be really accurate, otherwise it won't fit.
It won't fit. It doesn't work.
Brian, together with the craftsman, is constructing a new axle and new holders.
Sawa. Unasemaje? Mwanzo ni ngumu.
How do you face the problem that all those development steps has to take their time and a lot of patience?
What we do is we plant idea seeds. And some of those seeds germinate and some fall on rocky ground. And you just have to accept that some of those development seeds have not reached the right time to grow. Some seeds can stay in the ground for many, many, many years before they actually germinate. And likewise, I mean, it is frustrating to see some of these good ideas not accepted like that. But what we're doing is planting idea seeds. And if they're good, they will germinate. And that's the philosophy, one of the philosophies behind what we're doing.
One of his ideas is the washer and rope pump. Brian is building one for demonstration and instructional purposes in front of his house. The fresh water tank as well. The washer and rope pump is made of materials which are available in every remote village. The pump is extremely cheap and needs neither electricity nor gasoline. And most importantly, you can build and repair it yourself. Brian in action, also in the kitchen. It's about sealant material.
Oh, yes. Let me just turn it off.
So you will have this for dinner, Brian?
Yeah, I thought
Maru?
that would be sort of sweets.
Oh, sweets.
Sweets.
On a bread?
Or we could have it for what's it called? Entree? What do you think?
Starter.
For sweets or starters? Aha. Laini hii ni nzuri. Here we go. No holding, no problems at all. Now we're just going nicely. Well, there was one of these being operated in a village in Wanza region, by some women, and some bad young men walked past quite a long way away from the pump, and they saw water coming out. And in their mentality, they said, if there's water, there must be a pump down the bottom. So at night time, they came along with hacksaws and bolt cutters, and they got into the lid. They broke open the lid of the well and got in there to steal the pump. When they got in there, they only found a block of wood. They were so angry that they broke everything down. And the important and strange thing was that I didn't learn about that until about 2 months later, when someone said to me, oh, did you know that our pump broke down? I said, oh, no. How long ago? They said, oh, 2 months. I said, oh, no, it's not been working for 2 months and nobody told me. But they said, no, it's working because you taught the fundis, the technicians how to build it, and we built it on site. Then that same day, they got working on it, and they had it working by the evening again. Now, that was pretty miraculous. That was pretty wonderful and very encouraging. So it can happen. We're sitting on a little revolution here. Here I have some almost gold for Africa. Oh, I bought the wrong parcel. Give me that one, will you? This one here is something brand new. I just told our worker that this is special rice which can be planted like you plant maize without having to plant it in water. And for years I have heard about dryland or upland rice, but I've never been able to get it. And this has just become available. I've only got 2 kilos, but it's the start of a revolution here.
And where did you get it?
I got it in the Agricultural Research Station over in Bukoba.
What will you do with them? Just put it in your garden outside?
No. We have this farm down here, which we're working on, belongs to the diocese. And we've divided into 70 individual acres, and 69 people have contracts for an acre each. And we're putting conditions on how they grow their crops. But in there is 1 acre, which we call Shamba Darasa, which is a trial and demonstration acre, which we ourselves are operating. Now, this new rice will go in there. We will then harvest that rice and then give it to the other 69 people on that area. And they will be required to plant it there under our instruction, and then they can start selling it to others. And I predict that if this works like the results that are in Bukoba, that within 10 to 15 years, there'll probably be as much rice planted in this area as there is maize now.
Could this also happen, that this sort of dryland rice doesn't grow down in this area?
No, I don't think so. No, it'll grow because it's been growing over in Bukoba. That's where they harvest. That's where it came from. This is where it came from. It grows in Bukoba, it will grow here. The conditions are actually quite similar.
On the way to the workshop this time, Brian will meet the craftsman, the only one who has a welder. Together with him, he wants to build a special machine, one that will facilitate the sowing of the new rice variety and other crops.
Me piga simu kwake na sipati jibu.
More waiting. Now,
So we're gonna wait another half an hour?
yes, probably or more.
While we are waiting, I ask Brian what, in his opinion, is the purpose of development aid nowadays.
I don't know what we mean by development anymore, because if we say we're developed in the Western world, what's that mean? We're really destroying the world at an enormously fast rate. So would we encourage other people to join us in the race to the edge of the cliff? No, come on. So I'm stupidly radical. I say my job is to help people live in dignity with their poverty here. Very few will escape poverty. There was a phrase called, which is favoured by the United Nations and many NGOs, called poverty alleviation. Rubbish. Poverty reduction, yeah, possible. But poverty alleviation, come on, the globe can't afford it. If you alleviate poverty, all people will consume more resources like we are, and we just speed up the doom of the earth. Sermon finished. Amen.
Well, if you tell people here to get dignity in their poverty, doesn't that sound a little cynical?
Yes, but isn't consumerism and destruction of the planet more cynical? I mean, I get cross with the West because much of the aid that has come from the West is dependent upon self-sustainability. What are we talking about? We want these countries to have self-sustainable programs like reforestation or agriculture or whatever it is. And we can't demonstrate it in the West. Somebody told me once that Japan would die in 5 days if all ships were stopped. We are so interdependent. We're dependent on consumerism. Well, the good thing here is that, as Nyerere said many years ago, if a crisis comes, as happened in '73 with the fuel crisis, price of fuel trebled here. If a crisis comes, Africa will probably survive better than the West because we're not reliant upon these resources that we're so dependent upon in the West.
Once again, Brian and Jill are sitting at home in the dark. There is a power cut.
So how long it is gonna stay like this?
Oh, 1 day, 2 days, 3 days?
No, it
It
won't.
hasn't been more than 3 days on this yet.
But it'll come back on again in a little
Well,
bit.
to come back on, it's a matter of when.
But it's fairly unusual for it to go off and on like this. We haven't had that for a long time.
And what might be the reason?
Technical fault somewhere. The last time it happened, it was a transformer up by the hospital that blew out, and they had to wait to get the part for it.
And they waited for half a day? Or?
No, it wasn't long. I think they'd fixed it by morning, hadn't they? They got the
Up there? Oh no, it was 2.5 days.
Oh, okay. I've forgotten.
This doesn't make you nuts and crazy?
Well, there's nothing you can do about it.
Romantic movies, candlelight dinners, one. Until you get absolutely sick of them.
Duration? Only half an hour this time. The next morning, we make a second attempt at the construction of the special rice row preparer.
Edmund. Yes, sir. Habarigan. Tume pishana. Haya. Haya. Utanana tawa.
Karibuni.
Asante.
Do you think it will work with your invention?
It's going to work. I want to finish it very soon because I have to use it on Friday. Oh, well, I want to use it on Friday to show people how they can plant rice when they get it, but particularly to get good spacing for beans, because what they do is they have a handful of beans and they go in their plantation and just throw them anywhere. And the population is so small that the harvests are terribly small. And if we can get them to plant in rows, the right spacing. So the agricultural men who I hope to come on Friday, I want them to emphasise the spacing and the production that you can get from beans. It can be much, much higher than it is, at least double, just with proper spacing. Because beans don't take anything out of the soil, really. They add nitrogen. Why not use that ability? Yes, it's just 4, 3 1/4. It's just 3, 3 1/4. Good. Right. Hongera.
Asante, hongera sana. Hongera sana.
Yeah, I think we've got something very important in Uwezekana.
Yaani kwa vile umesema ni kwamba ni sio haifanyi kazi ngumu sana.
We're just taking it home as trials. And what's nice about it, it's not too heavy, and not too awkward. It's okay.
What will go on tomorrow? It sounds as that will be a big rally.
Yeah, well, we've got these 69 people coming. And
they will all come?
Well, if they don't, we're introducing the 3 strikes and you're out principle. So if someone doesn't come tomorrow, there'll be a mark put against their name. And if they fail to do something else which is obligatory, like attend at the nursery on a particular day, another stroke will be put against their name. If they do something else, 3 strokes and they've lost their shamba. And there will be no compensation for the money they've paid because they've been a problem to us. So, yeah, I'm sorry, but we're getting very tough.
Brian will not be able to monitor the rice project. His contract ends in a few weeks. He and Jill will have to go back to Australia. Their work assignment was only for 1 year this time.
So you don't get angry with your own destiny, that perhaps you make the kickoff go back home and it will just fall apart?
Well, I don't know. This is what we call faith. This is doing the right thing at the right time without the assurance that it will continue, but you do it because it's right and it's good.
6 o'clock in the morning.
Where are you, Jill?
Hello. You missed that one.
Always forget something.
We drive to the Nyakariba farm, the farmland of the diocese. Brian has stage fright. Will he manage to convince the 69 tenants about the new rice?
So, yeah, I'm always nervous. It's almost as bad as preaching.
Oh, and also...
If you don't go to the toilet twice on a Sunday morning before you preach, then there's something wrong with you. All I'm nervous about is, are we going to be able to motivate, to educate, to stimulate the people to be able to change?
Salama, karibu sana.
Asante.
Marai.
In Tanzania, the younger greets the elder with a respectful shikamoo.
Mwaka 43.
Ah, nipatie shikamoo. Ninastahili shikamoo sana.
Basi, wewe mwaka gani?
37.
Ni kweli.
This is the Anglican church, used by the farmers for worship and meetings.
So it will start immediately.
Start what?
The seminar will just start in a few minutes.
No. We're going to we have a conflict of cultures again.
That means?
The first time I came here, they were on time. About 95% of them were here on time. Now today we've got 3 or 4% here on time. And so this means we have to discuss what's going to happen.
And how long do you guess will we gonna wait?
Probably an hour. But the message will get around that we're serious. You come to a meeting on time or the matter is finished.
That is part of your job, is it?
This is part of the training process. That Tanzania has horrible development history, really. And one of the big causes of that is just we're late doing everything. And the government has planted millions and millions and millions of trees. But they're so late planting that the roots only go down this much while the rains are on, and then the dry season comes and they die. So we've got to do something about this history we have of just being slack as far as time is concerned. It's not for my purpose, it's for theirs, because it's their children we're thinking about.
One hour later, the beginning of the seminar. Almost half of all tenants are here. The representative of the Ministry of Agriculture gives the opening speech.
Tukikaribisha kila mtu aje kwa muda wake, hata hayo tunayoyategemea kuyapata itakuwa ni vigumu. Wachungaji kwa kutumia kanisa wanaona ni vema.
Lakini ukitazama anafanyaje?
Brian is joking around to lighten the mood of the tenants.
Sivyo? Ya muhimu duniani. Inasema poor harvest will cost the world. Yani mazao ya
Brian asks the farmers to increase production in their fields by following simple rules.
Na kuna mipaka upande huu, eka moja. Mimi naomba mnapotembea kutoka hapo mpaka pale, usikate katikati ya shamba. Tutumia mipaka tu. Mimi sijui haya takwimu hasa. Lakini kuna mambo machache.
Brian promised the tenants to always plant the crops on time. Otherwise, the harvest may be small.
Muda imekwisha. Lakini ukiwa na mawazo, mnaweza kuifanya mwaka ujao. Sawa? Kwa hiyo tukutana kwa semina hii wiki ijao au katikati ya Oktoba.
Then he explains the 3 strikes and you are out principle. This farmer realizes that he mustn't be late next time.
Na ya tatu, basi itakuwa bye-bye. Kwaherini.
I notice that these tenants don't seem to be very enthusiastic about cultivating an additional acre of land. I ask Brian what he thinks about my assumption. He explains that some people were allocated very poor plots. Others will not cooperate because they don't want to change their old habits. And others may not be present because of illness or laziness.
Na wewe mwenyewe mzee utapanda nini na nini mwaka huu?
Mwaka huu? Mahindi.
Mahindi?
Na maharage.
Ya aina gani?
It's a fact. Most tenants have very little fertile land with which they need to feed an average of 7 people, including children. With a growing population, many farmers are forced to look outside their tribal area for new land. Arable land is becoming increasingly scarce in Tanzania. Many ethnic groups are spreading out more and more. A few years ago, 6 people were killed because they had entered another tribal area and had begun to cultivate their fields. This incident escalated to a fight over land rights. Bringing new land under cultivation is now almost impossible. The supply situation is precarious. Brian tries to teach the tenants how to increase their crops by implementing simple tricks. He shows them the rice pre-planter and the new rice variety.
Hii na ninao nyingine nyumbani ya kwanza kabisa kufika kwenye wilaya yetu ambao ni mpunga wa nchi kavu. Sema, mpunga wa nchi kavu. Tayari.
Karabagi.
Kwa maharage ipo tayari.
Maharage.
Eh? Usipanda kiholela.
Licha mhuko laini. Dokumeja hamona. Dokumeja hamona kepi jali niko na pamoja. Ukuli atajaga mwenyewe.
Brian asks a farmer what he has learned.
Anauliza, ulijifunza nini leo?
Nimejifunza
hasa
kuhusu kilimo cha kisasa.
Yeah. Ina maana gani? Ni rahisi kusema kilimo cha kisasa, lakini maana yake ni nini? Tuseme mimi nimekuja kutoka mbali, mimi si mtaalamu.
Shamba darasa.
Shamba darasa itafanyaje?
Kulima mbegu kwa mistari.
Kulima mbegu. So what he's really learned is planting in rows, the profit of planting in rows.
And will you also plant this rice?
And itakapopatikana uonaji utapanda mpunga?
Ndio.
Kwa nini?
Ninaupenda sana hata kula vitu vyeupe.
Yes, he'll plant it because he likes. Why? I asked him why, and he says because I like to eat it. What happened was in the finish, you wanted to interview one of the people, and when that happened, I saw that really with him, not much had gone in. Although we were presenting new ideas, he wasn't responding, gee, I'm excited, or gee, I've learnt this particular thing. It was so general, he was just evading the answers, the questions, okay.
But aren't you just expecting too much from them?
Well, if I don't, nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. They'll just go on. They'll go on saying yes to my ideas and doing nothing. That's what happens. So, yeah, no, I'm not going to lower my expectations. I have dreams for these people and for this shamba. And I believe that they are dreams built on justice and equity amongst the sexes and care of the earth. And I'm not going to reduce those standards. Otherwise, I've compromised myself and it's back to the norm, which is more suffering and more famine as time goes on.
Benito.